Hey, it's Chris here, and boy, do I have a spine-chilling tale to share with you. This story takes us back to a chilling incident that shook my high school to its core, a night that no one could have prepared for, and one that I'll never forget. Picture this: it was a crisp autumn afternoon, and the school buzzed with excitement as we all looked forward to the weekend. Little did we know that the afternoon would soon turn into a nightmarish ordeal. As the last bell rang, signaling the end of the day, I made my way to the school gates with my best friend, Jake. We joked around, making weekend plans and laughing about the latest school gossip. But as we approached the exit, the principal's voice boomed over the intercom, breaking the jovial atmosphere. "Attention, students and faculty. We are currently on lockdown. This is not a drill. Please proceed to the nearest classroom and follow lockdown procedures." Confusion rippled through the crowd, and fear painted the faces of our classmates. We had practiced lockdown drills before, but this was different. This was real. Jake and I rushed back inside, finding refuge in our history classroom. Our teacher, Mrs. Thompson, guided us to sit silently in a corner away from the windows. The minutes stretched on, and tension hung heavy in the air. The once bustling halls now echoed with eerie silence. Only the distant sound of sirens pierced the quiet, hinting at the seriousness of the situation. Rumors began to circulate among the students. Some said there was a threat on campus, while others speculated about a possible armed intruder. As we sat huddled in the corner, the minutes turned to hours, and the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the school into darkness. The lockdown continued, and anxiety gnawed at our hearts. Mrs. Thompson, doing her best to keep us calm, spoke in soothing tones, reassuring us that help was on the way. But with each passing moment, the knot in my stomach tightened. Outside, police vehicles surrounded the school, and the flashing lights cast eerie shadows on the walls. Helicopters hovered overhead, searching for any sign of danger. Time seemed to slow, and we were left to wonder what was happening beyond the confines of our classroom. Were our loved ones safe? Was there really a threat inside the school? The night wore on, and the darkness seemed to seep into our souls. As we huddled together, we could hear distant footsteps and muffled voices echoing through the halls. Then, there was a sudden knock on the classroom door, and my heart leaped into my throat. Mrs. Thompson approached cautiously, peering through the window to see who was outside. It was the principal, his face tense with worry. He entered the room, accompanied by 2 police officers. With a heavy heart, he informed us that there had been a reported sighting of an armed intruder near the school. As he spoke, my mind raced with a million questions. Was the intruder inside the school? Were they still a threat? Would we make it out of this alive? The police officers advised us to remain calm and stay put until they could secure the entire building. They assured us that their priority was our safety. The minutes dragged on, and the tension in the room was palpable. Each creak of the floorboards and every distant sound sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly, there was a loud bang from the hallway, and we all jumped in fear. Mrs. Thompson quickly locked the door, and we huddled even closer together. For what felt like an eternity, we waited in fear and uncertainty. Tears streamed down some of my classmates' faces, while others clung to each other for support. But then, after what seemed like an eternity, there was a loud announcement over the intercom. "All clear. The lockdown has been lifted." Relief washed over us like a tidal wave, but the trauma of the night still lingered. The police had successfully apprehended the intruder outside the school, and the threat was neutralized. As we were escorted out of the school by police officers, I couldn't help but look back at the building that had been our fortress of fear for hours. The incident left a profound impact on our school community. Lockdown drills took on new urgency, and our sense of safety was shattered. In the days that followed, our school came together in support of one another. We held meetings with counselors, and teachers talked openly about the traumatic experience we had all endured. In the months that followed, security measures were heightened, and the school community remained vigilant. But the emotional scars of that long night would take much longer to heal. To this day, I can't shake the memory of that terrifying school lockdown. It's a reminder that the world we live in can be unpredictable and that safety is never guaranteed. So, let this tale serve as a reminder to cherish every moment and to never take safety for granted. May we strive for a world where our schools and communities are places of peace and security. And may we never forget the night that fear gripped our hearts, leaving us forever changed. Let's hop on to story number 2, but before I begin reading, make sure that you have subscribed to Mr. Scare for regular horror podcasts. I'm Sarah, and I've got a heart-pounding tale to share about a school lockdown incident that I'll never forget. This happened during my sophomore year at Oakwood High School, a day that started like any other but quickly turned into a terrifying nightmare. It was a chilly winter morning when I arrived at school, greeted by the usual buzz of students preparing for the day ahead. Little did I know that this day would be anything but ordinary. As the first bell rang, I settled into my biology class, ready to tackle the day's lessons. Our teacher, Mrs. Ramirez, was going over the syllabus when an ear-piercing alarm blared through the school. The intercom crackled to life, and Principal Johnson's voice filled the room. "Attention, students and staff. This is not a drill. We are initiating a school lockdown due to a potential security threat. Please follow all safety procedures immediately." Shock and confusion rippled through the classroom as we sprang into action, moving away from the windows and huddling in the corner. Fear coursed through my veins, and I could feel the eyes of my classmates filled with the same dread. As we crouched on the floor, the adrenaline pumping through my veins, I couldn't help but glance at the door. What was happening outside? Who or what was the potential threat? Time dragged on, and the tension in the room grew thicker with each passing minute. The intercom remained silent, leaving us in the dark about the unfolding events. Mrs. Ramirez did her best to keep us calm, but I could see the worry in her eyes. We were all scared, and the uncertainty of the situation was agonizing. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside our classroom. My heart pounded in my chest as the footsteps grew closer, and my mind raced with scenarios of who it could be. The door handle jiggled, and my breath caught in my throat. The door remained locked, but the intruder on the other side seemed determined to get in. With bated breath, I looked around the room at my classmates. We exchanged terrified glances, and it was clear that we were all thinking the same thing. What if the intruder managed to break in? Mrs. Ramirez swiftly ushered us into the storage closet at the back of the room, and we huddled together in the cramped space, praying that we wouldn't be discovered. Through the thin walls of the closet, I could hear muffled voices outside. My heart raced as I strained to make out what they were saying. "It's locked. We can't get in. Try another room. We don't have much time." The voices sent shivers down my spine, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in grave danger. Minutes turned into what felt like hours as we remained hidden in that closet, waiting for the all-clear signal. My mind was a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty, and I couldn't help but think about all the things I hadn't said to my loved ones. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the intercom crackled back to life. "The situation has been contained, and the lockdown is over. It is safe to resume normal activities." Relief washed over me, but my legs felt like jelly as we emerged from the closet. The school was filled with anxious students and staff, all seeking answers and comfort. The principal addressed the school, explaining that there had been a security breach by a former student who had intended to cause harm. Thankfully, law enforcement had acted swiftly, apprehending the individual before any harm was done. The news sent chills down my spine. We had been so close to danger, and I couldn't help but think about what could have happened if the intruder had managed to break into our classroom. In the days that followed, the school community came together to support one another. We participated in safety drills and received counseling to help us cope with the trauma of the incident. Despite the fear and uncertainty, the school lockdown incident brought us closer together. We realized the importance of looking out for one another and being vigilant about our safety. As time passed, life at Oakwood High School returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the memory of that day would forever be etched in my mind. To this day, I can't help but feel grateful for the swift response of the school and law enforcement. The incident served as a wake-up call, reminding us all to be prepared and to prioritize safety and security. So, let this story be a reminder that safety is not guaranteed, and we must always be vigilant and prepared. School lockdowns are not just drills, they are real and terrifying events that can happen at any moment. This happened during my senior year at Lakewood High School, a seemingly ordinary day that turned into a nightmare of fear and uncertainty. It was just another Wednesday morning, and I was rushing to my first class, biology, with my stomach grumbling from skipping breakfast. I dashed through the crowded hallways, hoping to avoid a tardy slip. As I entered the restroom to quickly fix my hair, the usual bustle of the school seemed to fade away. I was alone in the dimly lit restroom, the echo of my footsteps the only sound. Suddenly, the familiar buzz of my phone alerted me to a text message. It was from my friend, Sarah. "Did you hear? There's a lockdown happening." Confused and alarmed, I checked my school's emergency notification system. Sure enough, there was an alert stating that the school was on lockdown due to a potential security threat. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. My mind raced with questions. What was happening outside these restroom walls? Was there an intruder in the school? I tried to calm myself, reminding myself that the school's security team would handle the situation. But as minutes turned to what felt like hours, I couldn't shake the fear that I was trapped in a vulnerable place. The restroom suddenly felt like a prison, and every creak of the door sent my heart racing. I peeked out the small window, hoping to catch a glimpse of what was happening outside. But the blinds were drawn, and I could see nothing but the empty hallway. The silence was deafening, broken only by the muffled sounds of footsteps and faint voices outside. I felt isolated, cut off from the rest of the world, and my imagination ran wild with all the possibilities of what might be unfolding beyond those walls. Time seemed to stretch on indefinitely, and my anxiety intensified with each passing minute. My phone buzzed with messages from concerned friends and family, asking if I was okay. Unable to sit still, I paced back and forth, trying to drown out the sound of my own thoughts. I felt a desperate need to escape, but I knew that leaving the restroom would be reckless and potentially dangerous. Finally, the intercom crackled to life, and the principal's voice filled the school. "Attention, students and staff. This is Principal Thompson. We have successfully contained the situation, and it is safe to resume normal activities." Relief washed over me, but my legs felt like jelly as I stepped out of the restroom. The school was eerily quiet, and I felt a mixture of gratitude for the swift response of the school's security team and lingering fear at the unknown nature of the threat. As the day continued, rumors and speculation spread like wildfire. Some claimed that it was a false alarm triggered by a malfunctioning security system, while others insisted that there had been a real threat that had been quickly neutralized. The principal addressed the entire school during an assembly, urging everyone to stay vigilant and follow safety protocols in the future. They assured us that our safety was their top priority and that they would be implementing additional security measures. Despite the reassurances, I couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability that had consumed me during those tense moments in the restroom. The school lockdown incident had left an indelible mark on my psyche, reminding me that safety and security were never to be taken for granted. As the weeks went by, the incident gradually faded from the forefront of our minds, and the school returned to its normal rhythm. But the memory of that day stayed with me, serving as a constant reminder of the importance of preparedness and vigilance. Throughout the rest of the school year, I participated in drills and safety training, determined to be better prepared for any future emergencies. I knew that, as students, we needed to take an active role in our own safety and look out for one another. As graduation approached, I couldn't help but reflect on the events of that fateful day. It had been a wake-up call, showing me that life could change in an instant and that safety was never guaranteed. So, let this story serve as a reminder to cherish the moments of normalcy and to never take our safety for granted. School lockdowns are not just drills, they're real and frightening events that require us all to be vigilant and prepared. Let's stand together, look out for one another, and create a world where fear is replaced by a sense of security and community. Stay safe, my friends. I was in my senior year, counting down the days until graduation. The school buzzed with the usual excitement, and I was lost in my thoughts as I headed to my first period class. As the morning sun streamed through the classroom windows, our teacher, Ms. Daniels, was going over the day's lesson. But the normalcy was shattered when the intercom crackled to life. The principal's voice, tense and serious, cut through the air. Attention, students and staff. This is not a drill. We are implementing a lockdown. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please follow lockdown procedures immediately. A hushed panic swept over the classroom. Ms. Daniels moved with practiced calmness, locking the door and directing us to huddle in a corner away from the windows. My heart raced, and my mind spun. This couldn't be real. School lockdowns happen in distant places, not here, not to us. I exchanged nervous glances with my classmates, and an unsettling feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. The minutes ticked by in agonizing silence. We sat huddled together, the only sound the pounding of our hearts. The classroom felt like a prison, and the daylight outside seemed to lose its warmth, replaced by an eerie chill. Through the thin walls, we heard the muffled sounds of footsteps and hushed voices. Every creak of the floorboards made my skin crawl. The unknown was far more terrifying than anything I could imagine. Ms. Daniels, her face pale but composed, whispered reassurances as best she could. But her words offered little comfort. We were trapped, vulnerable, and the walls that had once felt safe now seemed like barriers keeping us from escape. Time dragged on, stretching into an eternity. We exchanged worried glances and whispered speculations about what was happening outside those locked doors. Fear clung to the air like a suffocating fog. Then, the intercom crackled again. The principal's voice, tense and strained, broke through the silence. Attention, students and staff. The threat has been neutralized. It is safe to exit the lockdown. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. The tension that had gripped us loosened its hold, and a wave of exhaustion washed over me. But beneath the relief was a lingering unease, a sense of vulnerability that couldn't be shaken. As we emerged from the classroom, blinking in the harsh hallway lights, the reality of what had just transpired hit me like a freight train. We had been mere moments away from a potential disaster, a threat that had sent our school into lockdown. Rumors spread like wildfire, as rumors do. Some said there had been an armed intruder on campus, others claimed it was a false alarm. The truth remained elusive, obscured by the chaos and confusion of the moment. The rest of the day passed in a daze. The halls that had once felt like home now seemed unfamiliar and haunted by the specter of what could have been. Students clung to each other, seeking solace and reassurance in the aftermath of the lockdown. In the weeks that followed, the incident left a lasting mark on our school community. Security measures were heightened, and conversations revolved around safety protocols and emergency plans. The event served as a chilling reminder that the threat of violence could touch even the most familiar and seemingly secure places. For me, the experience was a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of the world we live in. It shattered my sense of invincibility and left me with a newfound appreciation for every moment of safety and peace. So, the next time you hear about a school lockdown on the news, remember that behind those headlines are real people, real students, and real fear. It's a stark reminder that even in the most ordinary of settings, the shadows of danger can lurk, and our lives can change in the blink of an eye. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and cherish the moments of normalcy that you often take for granted.